Kara lay on the cold steel table, staring up at the sterile white ceiling of the medical bay. Her deep blue skin was mottled with bruises and lacerations, and her dark hair was matted with sweat and blood. Despite the pain from her injuries, it was the numbness below her waist that truly troubled her. She couldn't feel her legs or move them. When the support beam collapsed on her during the mission, crushing her spine, she knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. Her squad had pulled her broken body from the wreckage of the derelict ship and rushed her to the nearest intergalactic base, the only place with the advanced medical facilities and skilled doctors capable of treating her devastating wounds. Human doctors, renowned as the best healers in the galaxy. As the anesthetic wore off, Kara blinked groggily, her thoughts sluggish due to the sedatives. She tried to piece together fragmented memories: the frantic trip in the med shuttle, the chaos of the trauma ward, human medics and nurses swarming around her, shouting commands, and a pair of piercing blue eyes looking down at her with calm intensity as the world went black. The pneumatic hiss of the medbay doors snapped Kara back to the present. She turned her head to see a tall human male striding in, dressed in medical whites, holding a holopad. He had an air of quiet authority, his movements precise and purposeful. Kara's heart rate spiked as she recognized those striking blue eyes. "Ah, good, you're awake," he said, his voice a rich baritone that seemed to resonate through Kara's chest. He stepped up beside the table, studying the screens monitoring her vitals. "How are you feeling, Lieutenant Kara?" I can't feel my legs," Kara replied hoarsely, hating the tremor she heard in her own voice. She was a warrior, not some helpless invalid. "What happened? How bad is it?" The doctor met her gaze, his eyes filled with compassion yet unflinching honesty. "I'm Dr. River Holstrom, the lead surgeon on your case. You suffered a traumatic spinal cord injury from the impact. We've done what we can to stabilize your condition, but what?" Kara demanded, fear coiling in her gut like a cold serpent. "Give it to me straight, Doc." "I can handle it." "Doctor." Holstrom nodded slowly. "The damage was extensive. I'm afraid you've lost motor function and sensation from the waist down. We have advanced treatments that may help you regain some mobility with time and intense rehabilitation, but full recovery is unlikely." The words hit Kara like a plasma blast to the chest, burning and searing. She squeezed her eyes shut, refusing to let the tears escape. A warrior didn't cry, no matter how dire the wound. Hey, a warm, calloused hand gripped hers. Kara's eyes flew open to find Dr. Holstrom leaning over her, his gaze intent, his hand engulfing her blue one. "You survived, Lieutenant. That's no small thing, and if there's any chance of you walking again, any chance at all, I will move heaven and earth to make it happen. I swear it." Staring up into his chiseled face, the dark blonde stubble lining his strong jaw, Kara felt a different kind of heat kindling inside her. It was more than just his undeniable attractiveness, though the tousled hair and keen eyes certainly didn't hurt. No, it was the sheer conviction in his voice, the solemn oath he made to her, a lowly alien soldier. This human doctor, this elite physician, was dedicating himself entirely to her recovery. The realization made her breath hitch. "Okay, Doc," she said softly, curling her blue fingers around his. "I'll fight this with everything I've got, and I'm holding you to that promise." His hand tightened on hers as a slow smile curved his lips. "Call me River, and it's a deal, Kara." The way her name rolled off his tongue sent a shiver down her spine, the first real sensation she'd felt since waking. It was a start, a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, with this human healer by her side, she could find the strength to put her broken body and shattered spirit back together again, to rise from the ashes of this tragedy and fight once more, like the warrior she was born to be. The days turned into weeks as Kara threw herself into the grueling rehabilitation doctor. Holstrom prescribed physical therapy, muscle stimulation, neural remapping. She tackled every treatment with grim determination, gritting her teeth against the pain and frustration. And always, River was there, guiding her, encouraging her, pushing her to her limits and beyond. His steady presence became the rock she clung to in the storm of her recovery. "Come on, Kara. Just 3 more reps," he urged as she strained to complete the weighted leg lifts, sweat pouring down her blue skin. "You're stronger than this. Show me that warrior spirit." Snarling with effort, Kara forced her trembling legs to obey the servos and the mobility braces. She focused on River's face, on the fierce pride in his blue eyes as she pushed through the burning agony. "That's my girl," he said softly when she finished, helping her ease back onto the mat. "You did good today." Not good enough, Kara panted, fisting her hands against the hopelessness welling up inside her. I'm still half the soldier I used to be. I'll never fight again, never fly a ship, never. Hey, stop that. River's fingers gripped her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. You are not defined by what you can't do, Kara. You're defined by what you choose to do with what you have. And watching you these past weeks, seeing your courage, your tenacity, your sheer stubbornness, it's beautiful. Kara's eyes widened at the raw admiration in his voice. You really believe that? Even though I'm broken? River shook his head fiercely. You are not broken. You're a survivor, a warrior. And whether you're fighting on the battlefield or fighting to walk again, that spirit inside you is what makes you extraordinary. He reached out to brush a strand of hair from her face, his fingertips grazing her cheek. Kara shivered at the contact, her heart suddenly hammering against her ribs. She knew it was wrong, knew she shouldn't feel this way about her doctor, her savior. But every day, every shared trial and triumph only drew her deeper under his spell. River, she breathed, caught in the intensity of his stare. For a long, charged moment, neither of them moved, the air between them crackling with tension. Then River blinked and pulled back, clearing his throat. I have something for you, he said, standing abruptly and crossing to a workbench in the corner of the therapy room. He returned with a sleek metal case, offering it to her. Frowning, Kara took the case and flipped it open. Inside, nestled in black foam, was a pair of gleaming metal leg braces, similar to the ones she wore but far more advanced. She looked up at River questioningly. I designed them for you, he explained, rubbing the back of his neck in an uncharacteristically nervous gesture. The neural interfaces are more intuitive, the service more responsive. They should give you greater range of motion and finer control. I thought they might help. Kara traced a finger over the smooth metal, her throat suddenly tight. You made these for me. River nodded. I couldn't sleep, thinking about how to make this easier for you, so I tinkered. It's a hobby of mine. A hobby? Kara laughed incredulously. River, this is amazing. I can't believe you did this. He shrugged, but she could see the pleased flush on his cheeks. I just want to see you whole again, Kara, in whatever way I can help make that happen. Impulsively, Kara reached out to take his hand, lacing her blue fingers through his pale ones. Thank you, she said, putting all the emotion she couldn't voice into those two simple words. River squeezed her hand, his calluses scraping her skin in a way that made heat curl in her belly. You're welcome. Now, what do you say we take those new legs for a spin? Grinning, Kara let him help her into the braces, shivering as his hands skimmed over her bare thighs. The servos hummed to life, the neural link syncing with her implants, and suddenly she could feel her legs again, could feel the power in her muscles. River stepped back, holding out a hand in challenge. Come on. Then, Lieutenant, show me what you've got. Eyes narrowing in determination, Kara pushed herself up. The servos whirred as she took one shaky step, then another, gaining confidence with each stride. River matched her pace, his hand hovering near her elbow, ready to catch her if she fell. But she didn't fall. With every step, she grew stronger, surer, until she was walking smoothly across the room, the braces barely making a sound. River, she laughed breathlessly as she turned to face him. I'm doing it. I'm really doing it. The brilliant smile that broke across his face rivaled a supernova. You're magnificent, you know that? An absolute goddess. The unabashed worship in his eyes made Kara feel like she could conquer galaxies. Drunk on victory and adrenaline, she launched herself at him, throwing her arms around his neck. River caught her easily, his arms banding around her waist as he lifted her off her feet and spun her around. They were both laughing as he set her down again, but the laughter faded as Kara realized just how close they were, her body flush against his, her breasts crushed to his solid chest. She could feel the heat of him through the thin fabric of his uniform, could smell the clean, masculine scent of his skin. River's eyes darkened as he looked down at her, his hands flexing on her hips. Kara, he murmured, his voice rough with an emotion she couldn't name. Heart in her throat, Kara surged up on her toes and kissed him. For a moment, River froze, and Kara feared she'd made a terrible mistake. But then he groaned low in his throat and hauled her closer, slanting his mouth over hers in a searing kiss that made her toes curl. He kissed like he did everything else with focused intensity and devastating skill. His tongue swept into her mouth, tasting her, claiming her as his hands roamed over her back, her hips, her ass. Kara whimpered and clung to him, heat sizzling through her veins, pooling low in her belly. When they finally broke apart, they were both panting, pulses racing in sync. River rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed as he struggled for control. "We can't do this," he said hoarsely. "I'm your doctor, Kara. It's unethical. Unprofessional." "I don't care," Kara whispered fiercely, cupping his face in her hands. "You're more than just my doctor, River. You're my partner, my equal, my soulmate, if there is such a thing. And I want you. God, I want you so much." River's eyes snapped open, the blue nearly swallowed by the black of his pupils. "Ethics be damned," he growled and sealed his mouth over hers once more. This time there was no hesitation, no holding back. They devoured each other, months of pent-up longing and denial pouring out in a frenzy of lips and teeth and tongues. River backed her up against the wall, pinning her there with the hard plane of his body as he kissed her breathless. Kara fisted her hands in his hair, arching shamelessly against him, craving more of his touch, his taste. She nipped at his bottom lip, and River hissed, retaliating with a sharp bite to her throat that made her cry out in pleasure pain. Then he rasped against her skin. Now. They stumbled together through the adjoining door into River's private quarters, shedding clothes as they went. By the time they reached the bed, they were both bare, skin-flushed and heated as they tumbled onto the mattress in a tangle of limbs. What followed was a passionate joining of bodies and souls, a primal affirmation of the bond they had forged through adversity and triumph. They moved together in perfect sync, giving and receiving pleasure in equal measure until the universe narrowed to the slide of skin on skin, the mingling of breaths and heartbeats. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, sated and spent. River traced idle patterns on Kara's bare back as she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady thump of his heart. That was. He trailed off, seemingly at a loss for words. Cosmic Kara finished with a lazy grin. Transcendent. The stuff of legends. River laughed, a deep, satisfied rumble she felt in her bones. Took the words right out of my mouth, Lieutenant. Kara traced idle patterns on his sweat-cooled chest, marveling at the play of muscle beneath her fingertips. "So, what happens now?" she asked softly. River tipped her chin up to look at her, his blue eyes warm and certain. "Now we rewrite the rules," he said firmly. "You're not just my patient anymore, Kara. You're my partner in every sense of the word, and I'll be damned if I let anything, even protocol, come between us." Kara's heart swelled with emotion, with the sheer rightness of his words. "Okay," then she whispered, sealing it with a kiss. "Partners in rehab and in life." River grinned against her mouth. "I like the sound of that. Now, what do you say we work on your endurance training, Lieutenant? I have a few ideas." Laughing, Kara let him roll her beneath him once more, eager to embrace this new chapter in her life. In their life together, they would heal each other, challenge each other, make each other stronger. Together, they would face whatever the universe threw at them next. Warriors, partners, equals, always. As the weeks turned into months, Kara's strength and mobility continued to improve under River's diligent care and her own fierce determination. The new leg braces he designed worked wonders, allowing her to walk, even run, with increasing ease and grace. But it wasn't just her body that was healing. With every day spent in River's company, every stolen kiss and tender touch, Kara felt the wounds on her heart and soul beginning to mend as well. He was her rock, her safe harbor in the tempest of her recovery. Their relationship, while intense, remained a closely guarded secret. In public, they maintained a strict professionalism, doctor and patient, nothing more. But behind closed doors, in the sanctuary of River's quarters, they were free to be themselves, to explore the profound connection that had blossomed between them. It was after one such stolen interlude, as they lay tangled together in the afterglow, that the outside world came crashing in. River's comm beeped insistently, shattering the peaceful silence. Groaning, he rolled over to answer it, his free hand still tracing idle patterns on Kara's bare back. "Holstrom here," he said, his voice crisp and efficient, no hint of the passion that had colored it mere moments ago. Kara couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but she felt River tense, his fingers stilling on her skin. "I see," he said tightly. "No, I understand. I'll be there shortly. Holstrom out." He sat up, scrubbing a hand over his face. Kara propped herself up on one elbow, concern etching her features. "What is it? What's wrong?" River sighed, his broad shoulders slumping. "I've been summoned to a meeting with the base commander and the chief medical officer. Apparently there are some Concerns about my treatment methods and the amount of time I've been spending with you. Kara's heart clenched. They know about us? I don't think so, not yet anyway, but they're suspicious. River's jaw tightened. I'll have to be more careful, more discreet. We both will. Kara sat up fully, the sheet pooling around her waist. River, if this is putting your career at risk, maybe we should note. He cut her off firmly, cupping her face in his hands. I meant what I said, Kara. You're my priority, personally and professionally. I won't let them come between us. I'll handle this, I promise. He kissed her then, deep and slow and thorough, a kiss that felt like a vow. When he pulled back, his blue eyes were fierce with determination. Trust me, he murmured against her lips. Always, Kara whispered back, meaning it with every fiber of her being. Reluctantly, River extracted himself from her embrace and began to dress, donning his uniform with brisk, efficient movements. Kara watched him, memorizing the play of muscle beneath his skin, the way the stark lines of the uniform accentuated his lean strength. At the door, he paused, looking back at her with a soft smile. Get some rest, he ordered gently. I'll see you in the morning for your therapy session. Kara nodded, returning his smile. Yes, sir, Dr. Holstrom. With a final wink, River was gone, the door whooshing shut behind him. Kara flopped back onto the pillows with a sigh, already missing his presence. But beneath the ache of separation, a cold tendril of worry curled in her gut. She knew the risk they were taking, the precarious tightrope they walked. If their relationship was discovered, the consequences could be severe for both of them. River could lose his position, his reputation, everything he'd worked so hard for. And Kara? She could lose him. The thought made her chest constrict, her breath coming short. No, she couldn't let that happen. River meant too much to her, had become too integral to her life, her very being. She would fight for him, for them, with the same tenacity and single-minded focus she brought to her physical recovery. But as she lay there in the darkened room, surrounded by the lingering scent of him on the sheets, Kara couldn't shake the feeling that there were forces at work beyond their control, shadows gathering on the horizon that threatened to swallow the fragile light they had found in each other. She just prayed they would be strong enough to weather the coming storm. Kara must have drifted off at some point, because the next thing she knew, she was startling awake to the sound of insistent pounding on the door. Disoriented, she sat up, clutching the sheet to her bare chest. River, she called out, her voice thick with sleep. But it wasn't River's voice that answered. Lieutenant Kara, this is Commander Valen. Open the door now. Ice flooded Kara's veins. The base commander himself, outside River's quarters in the middle of the night cycle. This could only mean one thing they knew. Heart in her throat, Kara scrambled out of bed, hastily donning her discarded clothing. She had just managed to fasten the last closure on her tunic when the door lock beeped and disengaged. Clearly, the commander wasn't willing to wait for her to grant him entry. Kara squared her shoulders and lifted her chin as the door slid open, revealing the imposing figure of Commander Valen, flanked by 2 armed security officers. The commander was Aoran, his reptilian features set in harsh lines, his slitted eyes cold and assessing as they raked over her. Lieutenant Kara, he said, his voice a sibilant hiss. You are hereby placed under arrest for conduct unbecoming an officer in fraternization with a superior. Kara's heart stopped. I don't know what you're talking about, she managed, fighting to keep her voice steady. I'm here for medical treatment, nothing more.